Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is your girl, Donna D, aka The Urban Mommy, and I am back with another podcast. Today, I am joined by Miss Joann, and she has an awesome story. The last couple of podcasts, we have been talking about relationships, toxic marriages, narcissists, and all of, and everything with it. So today, we're going to continue that conversation because I want you all to see that this is more common than you think it is. A lot of people have went through it and they have persevered. So don't give up if you're going through it. Miss Joann, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, I didn't even know the word narcissism till about 3 years ago, which is off
Same.
my radar. I said, oh yeah, that's what I've been going through.
That's exactly the same story. I think I was telling that to someone else on the podcast. I was like, I didn't even know what a narcissist was. And when I did think about what a narcissist was, I always thought it was just someone that had a huge ego. I didn't know about all the other stuff that most of us deal with and we didn't know.
Right,
So
right.
can you tell
Until
us
I
a
saw
little
my
bit
therapist sign.
that part?
Yeah, it's like, that's it. Can I tell
That's
you what?
it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am 69. I live in Portland, Oregon. I have a grown daughter and 3 grandchildren. I own my own bookkeeping business, and I've been doing that for over 40 years. And I've written one book about my marriages and some other cool stuff I do. And now I'm writing book 2 all about the narcissist in my life. So, and
Yeah.
he's now out of my life. So
Congratulations. Okay.
thank you.
So let's just get started. Just tell us a little bit about your situation with your marriage and how everything went.
Which one?
Oh, yeah, right.
There's
The one
there's been 7.
7?
7. Yes.
Oh, well, that's more interesting than I initially thought.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you really believe in love, huh?
I do. I
That's a
do.
good thing.
I just kept picking the wrong men.
That's okay.
So where do you
That
want me to
is okay.
start?
Whatever you want to start.
Okay.
You have the floor.
I'll give you some background. Yeah, sure. Um, let's see. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, with the image of the white picket fence, and you grow up and you marry Mr. Right and you become a mommy and you get to stay home and while he goes off to work and that's all great and everything's going to be hunky-dory. My family was not exactly that way, the one I grew up in. And and then I joined the Mormon church when I was 12. And you grow up in this image that, you're supposed to get married, have babies, everybody's going to be fine. And you don't get to have sex before you're married, and you don't get to live with each other before you're married. And I thought, well, if I just pick somebody in the church, then he's going to naturally be a great husband because we go to the same church. So we obviously believe the same things. We're just naturally going to want to raise our family the same way. Well, that doesn't turn out to be true either. And I often did not I didn't court long enough to really, get the hormones out of the way and really find out what they really were like and really talk about the hard stuff. So I was married to 5 different Mormons who all turned out to be abusive in one way or the other. And two non-members, one committed suicide, and that's my father's daughter. And number 7, we were together for like 25 years. He's in prison, and he turned out to be a narcissist. So I've been through financial abuse, physical abuse, a lot of emotional, mental, verbal abuse. So
Wow.
lots of experience.
Yeah, that's a nice resume there. So,
Thank you.
are you still in the Mormon? Are you still a Mormon?
No, I left it. I was a member for 30 years, and once I met husband number 7, and we started talking about all kinds of cool, interesting things. And at first, it was like, well, do I want to go sit at church for half the day, or do I want to have another visit with him? And I chose visiting with him because it was really interesting. And just for some reason, I just didn't need to be part of the church anymore. I didn't ever have any trauma with the church, just the crappy Mormon husbands that I had. And so then I just chose to not go to church anymore. So, it's just, no big trauma. I just chose him over going to church. And so I've been a Mormon for 25 years, at least. Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is probably going to be shocking or surprising to you, but my sister is actually a Mormon.
Uh-huh. No, nothing
So,
surprises me.
right. So, I mean, I learned a little bit about it, but I know if someone uh, does something, they will ostracize them. So, in your situations with your husbands, with the ones that were unsuccessful, the five Mormons, were were they never like shunned upon? No one was ever upset with them?
At church, they looked great. The public face is often different than at home. And I remember husband number 3 before, well, before he really got physically abusive, he had some anger issues and he'd never been married before. And here I am, and I've got a toddler, and he's not used to being a dad. But he came home from work one day and was really angry, and he proceeded to walk around our mobile home and broke every single window. And I went to the church leader and I said, what do I do? This is scary. And, well, do you think he'll hit you? And I go, well, he hasn't yet. I don't think so. And then I just kind of dropped it. And so, no, they didn't even talk to him. And we moved to Ohio. We were in California, and then we moved to Ohio. And then physical abuse started happening, but I didn't report it, and I didn't call the police. And I didn't even call the police when he hit my little girl. To this day, I regret that. Thankfully, she has forgiven me for that, but she remembers, and she remembers every awful stepdad she's had. But, we've worked through a lot of stuff. And no, it's like, I don't know what they would have done. Maybe just talk to him, but I don't know, because I didn't tell them. And, finally, as I was getting ready to leave him, I probably confided in the female leader, or the leader of the women's organization. But, I don't even know if I told her he was hitting us. I can't even remember that point. But yeah, no, you certainly get excommunicated and ostracized strict if there's, sexual problems, or, if you're doing things that kind of. So I don't know what else they, excommunicate you for, but,
Right.
yeah,
But
but
the
they
Mormons
didn't
are
talk to him.
the Mormons are like male heavy anyway, right? So they probably
Yes.
wouldn't do much. Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, they're
That's
very male
unfortunate.
heavy. Yeah, it's, the patriarch, and it's because they teach you that, you're supposed to be helpmeets, because that's what it says in the Bible, I think, if I remember correctly. And but you're also supposed to let the man be the head of the household, which is like, I'm fine if you're doing a good job, great. But if you're not, I'm going to speak up, because, well, I'm better at being stronger than like I would just sit back though. And, I learned to be codependent watching my mom with my alcoholic father. And I learned to be a caregiver and an enabler. So that didn't really help me. And, I'd say something and we'd get in fights, and then, but again, I never reported him. And even when he hit me and the doctor knew that's what had happened. And it's like, I still never called the police. I just left finally. And I should have
Right.
called the police.
Right. I mean, but it's easy to sit back now and say that, but when you are inside of a toxic, abusive relationship, it's
Yeah.
never that simple. So, I
No,
mean, I know
never.
we always say it and we jokingly kind of guilt ourselves, but honestly, everything that happened is usually how it happens when you are inside abusive relationships. So abusive men tend
Right.
to know the type of women that they can go after, and it's the loving, the nurturers, the ones that that don't really want the public to know everything, so they may keep stuff inside. So
Right.
if you are feeling bad about that, please, I mean, not saying please don't, but that's just what happens. That's an effect of being abused.
Yeah. And it's the writing the book was very healing. So, I don't feel, I don't get all worked up about, feeling bad about myself about that so much anymore. So,
Good. Okay. So with that
yeah.
being said, can you tell us a little bit about the first book?
The first book is called Midlife Magic, and it's under the name of Joann Richards, my former name. And half of it is the first 6 husbands and what went wrong. And, oh, here's a red flag, but I didn't notice it until, long past. And the different kinds of abuses that we went through. And again, there's, a chapter on my childhood, a chapter on just, why I got married so many times. Again, because I wanted that perfect little family. And, I was telling my daughter, it's like, I wanted her to have a dad after her dad died. I wanted to have a happy little family. I just kept picking the wrong guys. And it's like, she and I were so much better off when I wasn't straddling her with another stepfather, because we were doing fine on our own. I lived near my family finally by that time. And, it would have been great if I could have found somebody that was much better suited to us, but that didn't happen when she was little. So, that's part of the reason why I just kept getting married. So, the book is half about the husbands. Then there's a few chapters about number 7, how we met, what it's like being married to somebody in prison, and what you go through. And I he was my hero at that time because he seemed so much better than the other 6. And so I really had him on a pedestal anyway. And I didn't realize that he was a narcissist till pretty much right before I left. And I, originally till I knew that word until after I left. And I was living in California at the time, and I didn't know, I just figured, okay, it's COVID. The house is creeping me out because it's really old and it's getting really expensive, and we just need to figure things out. And I'm going to go move near my daughter during COVID because otherwise I don't get to see anybody. I'm in this huge house. I work at home. I don't get to go anywhere. I've got people bringing my groceries to me. So, and then, he blew up because I moved, and then it's like we went through this roller coaster, but I hadn't moved when I wrote the first book. So the first book is nice things about him, and it's how I got interested in UFOs and the military stuff about UFOs and witchcraft and fun stuff like fairies and aliens and spirits and paranormal and all these cool things that are just a part of my life. And so it's kind of like, here's my transition from that, serial marriages to bad Mormons, and to embracing some really new passions, which are still part of, actively a part of my life, and just how I use those kind of things to embrace my better life and the life that I want, and tapping into intuition and, making my life the best that it needs to be for me. So,
okay.
yeah.
So you said, what's it like to be married to someone in jail? So he was in jail when you married him, or during the marriage?
The whole time. He'd already been in prison for like 10 years. And I met him because my roommate's husband was at the same prison, and she came home one day and said, "Oh, I met this really nice guy. He's visiting with his mom. He's really smart. He's your age." I go, "Oh, smart. That would be a new kind of boyfriend." And so we started writing, and then I started visiting in person, and we courted for like 5 years. So you would have thought I would have had it figured out. It's like he's it's like, but again, we got along. We were having a great time. He was charming and educated and had great stories. And so then I just kind of fell into the pattern of helping him with his research about things he was writing. I was helping taking care of his mom because she had health problems. And then, I moved into the family house with his mom so I could take care of her. And then all of a sudden she dies, and I'm straddled with this big giant house that is a money pit. And I paid for everything pretty much, and kept visiting him the whole time, got my bookkeeping business going as my own business. And, as long as we were following his agenda and I was trying to keep up with his creative projects and what he was asking me to do, and I was visiting him regularly, everything was great. But, you veer from the agenda, or you try and do things on your own that might not be his creative project. And it's like, you turned your back on my needs. It's like, I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm doing all the work.
Right.
What are you doing? I mean, I shouldn't, he did have a job. He had a good job every prison he was at. He is an honorary military veteran, and he's had some great military experiences. So I honor that part of him, but he was a lousy partner and turned out to be a really classic narcissist. It's got to be his way, and all the gaslighting. And, he hadn't really done that while we were married or why I was visiting in person. He only got really seriously, intensely upset with me a couple times. It's like, oh, okay. And so as long as I just kept everything status quo and basically tried to do what he needed, and but as soon as I wrote my own book, and it's like, oh, well, you're not taking care of, you're not working on my stuff, or you should have put that into the house. And it's like, well, the house, I have been, but I'm making the money, so I should be able to put some of it into my book if I want.
Yeah, those guys, and not to put them all in a box, but most people that's been in prison, they are like master manipulators. They know, and not even just the narcissistic side of it, but they know how to manipulate women. And they
You're
too have a
right.
type. They have a type, and they look for women like nurturers that want to help, and they make it like women that need a project. You know, that's
And
what
it's
I
funny,
like to
yeah,
say.
I wasn't looking at it like a project. And um, because for most of the time, we were having fun talking to each other and stuff. But again, and yes, I know several guys who were like that. It's like, oh, you got 5 women sending you packages, and it's like you got 2 baby mamas coming to visit you. It's like, your parents are handing you cash in the visiting room. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's a
So
lot.
he never had me do anything illegal. He never asked me to do anything illegal, and I would have said no anyway.
Right.
But it was this other stuff. It's like it just blew my mind. And finally, my sister and my daughter were, it's like, why are you still paying for those things? It's like, it's like, yeah, it's like, and I realized, it's like, I want to retire unless he drops dead and I magically get to inherit the house, which I thought I was going to, but that's not the case. And now we're divorced. It doesn't matter anyway. But it's like, I want to retire. I started saving really late in life for retirement. And so we'll see how well that works out. But I'm still planning to retire. But it's like, dude, we're in our 60s. What's our plan?
Right.
Oh, I'm going to get out, and I'll take care of you. Well, it's like, okay, you have a life without parole sentence. There's no guarantee, no matter how hard you're working on it, that you'll ever get out. So how are we going to afford retirement?
Right. So
I can't physically work till I'm 90 and then drop dead at my computer. Come on.
right. And actually we have some similarities because and I was talking to like a therapist one time, and I was telling her the stories with the situations, and she said she mentioned the same thing, and she was saying, yeah, you need a project. And I'm like, no, it's not a project, I'm just doing it because I want to. But she says that sometimes you don't realize it, but that becomes us so much
Yeah.
that we almost subconsciously find someone that needs some kind of fixing.
Well, you're absolutely right, because I didn't see it like that, but I was helping with his research. I went out on an international speaking circuit and talked about his military stuff. And now I'm just going to be talking about my stuff.
You're
And,
right.
it's like, yes, I was doing it's like my whole life was visit him, work on his stuff, pay the bills, pay for the house repairs, and then go do these speaking things and sell these reports he had written. And it's like, huh. And I'd come up here to Oregon to see my family a few times a year. But it was
Hmm.
like, okay, I can visit him for a couple hours on Christmas, then I can run to where the family's having the holiday, and I can do Thanksgiving the same way. And it's like, there were some years, if he was not stationed, he wasn't in the military. If he was like too far away to, it's like I had to go like hours away to see him, then he often got priority. And, I know my family felt slighted because I'm not there for Thanksgiving. And it's like, we really love being together for certain holidays. And it's like, well, you're not with us. And it's like, well, I'm, trying to support my husband, So for the last, 10-15 years, he's been like, he was like only an hour from my house, which made it, only 2 hours to go to my sister's from his where he was. So, I didn't miss a lot of holidays, but I did miss some with the family. But
So, looking back over your your 7 different husbands, which one taught you the biggest lesson, and what was that lesson?
I think to a certain extent, they all taught me lessons on, I need to take care of myself and my daughter as a priority. Now, the last one, I really finally owned that, because I find that, okay, it's not selfish to do self-care and book myself in for that massage once a month. And it's
Right.
not selfish to talk to my therapist. And it's not, and it's like I can speak up for myself, and that's okay. And if it's like I need to be able to talk, I need to be able to find somebody I can talk with, but I need to not be afraid to express my opinions. And yes, you can do that without coming on too strong. And there's you can learn how to communicate with each other, but you know just knowing that I'm enough and I'm a really good person and I'm this amazing person. And it's like I told that to the ex when I saw him, and the last time I saw him in person was April of this year, and he would just roll his eyes when I'd say stuff like that. It's like, excuse me. And during the whole negotiation of the last few years, we'd try and, okay, let's try and be nice in our letters. We couldn't see each other for a whole year because of COVID, so there was no visiting. And so it's like, okay, now we're mad. Okay, now we're trying to be nice to each other. So it's like, for a while, it wasn't until later 2022 that I really said, okay, this really isn't working. We're getting a divorce. It's like, so I was away from California for a couple of years before I really said the D word. But I think now it's like, I am taking care of myself. I am saving, and I started saving for retirement when I was still with him, but I am happy with myself. I go on my walks. I'm just doing better. And so I would have to say I learned the best lessons that are going to stick with me. I've learned lots of little lessons, but again, the little lessons about, if somebody's hurting you physically, call the police. Don't wait. Just call the police and get yourself out of there if that's what you need to do, and protect yourself and protect your kids. It's like, I didn't protect my daughter like I should have. And no, I was never beaten to a pulp, but any physical violence is not good. Any amount doesn't.
Any of it.
You don't have to end up in the hospital and for it to not be good.
Right.
And thankfully, I've always been employable, and I've always been able to find jobs and work and support myself. So,
Right.
I think it's important to be an independent person, even if you're in a relationship, and working together with that person. But be happy with yourself, because when you know yourself really well and you come across that, I'm really happy with myself, then you're probably going to find a person that's better suited for you anyway. Not probably, you will. And your relationship, if you're in a current one, should go better, because, but again, standing up for yourself is like the biggest lesson I've had to learn. So I highly recommend that.
Right. 10 out of 10. What did
Yeah.
he say? What did he say when you mentioned divorce? Because I know that had to be like, how dare you?
Exactly. It's funny. Well, not funny, but when I moved, because I was planning on, because like, okay, the year before I moved, I'd said, okay, we need to start having a plan for retirement, downsizing. I need to stop having to pay for all the house stuff. So let's start having a plan. Months went by, and then then COVID hit. We're shut down for months, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And my daughter's going, come move up here, be near us. Like, okay. And I wasn't gonna move till like the fall, so several months out, so I would have had more time to talk to him about it. Something came up. I was able to get an apartment a lot sooner, and okay, I said, okay, I'm bye, basically. And so the timing of letters between spouses or not, when you're in prison, you don't always get each other's letters. And I always got his a lot sooner than he got mine. But, whatever, the timing is never cool. And he couldn't call me, and I couldn't call him. And so he finally got, and he just blew up. And instead of talking to me, it was like, number one, he assumed I was leaving him for good instead of asking, hey, what's going on? And it's like, okay, well, now you need to get the rest of your stuff out of the house, and I'm going to get people in there, and we're going to. So it's like he just went into commando mode, and it's like, dude, we could have just had a conversation, and I would have assured you the relationship was fine. It's like, I do want to work on some things, but again, I would finally get the courage to bring up things I wanted to work on. And it's like, well, a good wife should just be grateful that you've got this house. And a good wife, her husband shouldn't have to tell her these things that you're asking me to tell you. It's like, I just want to know why you like me, after all these years, why do you like me? It's like, I think these are simple things. And he just couldn't. It's like, a good wife shouldn't, guys don't say that. I go, yeah, guys do. And, I think by the time he, we actually said the words, it was almost like we didn't have to say it. It was just like, okay, now we just have to, figure it out, because this is going to happen. And by then he was probably already resigned. It's like, we both knew that the relationship was not working, and it probably wasn't going to be fixable. And, when you say stuff to me, like, cause we had a 2-day family visit in the fall of last year. And, I'd said, and I think by then even we knew we were going to get a divorce. And it was like, it's like, well, why didn't you want to kiss me more? Or, why didn't you want to be more affectionate? It's like, you should have tried to be prettier. It's like,
right.
I'm not ugly. I'm just not a size 2.
Right.
And again, and it's like, and I would get on him. It's like, well, why didn't you support my book? It was bad timing for me. I'm trying to work on my legal case. It was just bad timing for me. It made me look like a loser. It's like, and again, it's like, I put my money into my book, not his stuff. So yeah, it was just, the writing was on the wall by the time we actually said the word. And it was just basically, okay, how are we going to deal with the house and stuff like that? And, it's not like, we didn't have any kind of prenup or anything. So it's just like, let's just assume nobody has any money and nobody owes anybody any money. We're just not getting along. And in Oregon, you can get a divorce really fast if people just sign off on it. So,
Oh, wow.
that
How
was
long
nice.
did you all stay married? So how long were you married?
We were married technically like a little over 20 years.
Whoa.
I know. That's why I thought, oh, this is going to last forever. But, he has always, he's never been shy about saying that he's selfish, because he grew up as an only child and he's a spoiled brat.
Right.
But I know that he talks, he has, because when you're in prison, you can't own anything in California. So his house, and, there aren't any funds in California. It's like his house is in a trust. So it's like, I'm working with the other trustee. And she goes, yeah, he said you're writing a scathing book. I go, well, how did he even know? It's not like I publicly announced it with his name.
Right.
So it's like, well, it'll be not nice and it'll be truthful. I'm trying not to be scathing. I'm using examples out of his letters. So I'm just using his words.
Right.
If it's scathing, it's scathing, but it is an important topic, like you said, and more people are having the voice to talk about it. And, it's like, why can't people just get along? Why can't people just be nice to each other? If you want me to be nice to you, why can't you be nice to me?
Right. So 20 years is an awfully long time.
Yes, it is.
So how, and then it's 20 years while he was in prison. So I know that had to be hard on you. So how is it being a prison wife?
It's difficult. You don't, and I, again, for the longest time we did get along. But I don't think we would have gotten along so well if he had lived at home, knowing what I know now, because he is very selfish and, he wants things a certain way. I know that I had told him, it's like, okay, we could never work together in a business because I work differently than you do. I got papers on my desk from my clients and he would have nothing. Everything is clean. You have your secretary clean up your office at the end of the day. It's like, and I'm not going to be your secretary. And so it's like, it wouldn't have worked. But it was difficult because here I am. I'm doing I would tell him about all the major hits. I go, okay, well, there's another leak in the roof. I got to fix it. It costs this much. And oh, okay, now there's the raccoons have pulled a hole open in the roof. I got to fix that. Oh, now there's the house was 100 years old over that. It's like, so everything kept falling. All these trees and limbs were falling and, falling into the neighbor's yard on their car and falling into the driveway. And but again, just the reality of visiting, it's like you're visiting a prison. So you might only have to drive an hour, but sometimes it was 3 hours. Sometimes it was 5 to 8 hours, depending on where in California he was. And, it depended on how crowded the room was.
Mm-hmm.
You might only get an hour or two visit. And fortunately, like I said, for the last 10 or 15 years, he lived an hour away. So I could go every weekend. And I would spend, several hours on a Saturday or a Sunday. I wouldn't spend both days because I had things to do. But again, you're in a giant room with a lot of people and you're having to buy food out of the vending machine and you're allowed a hug and a kiss at the end and the beginning. And you can hold hands during the visit, but, obviously that's all, People tried to do more. We never did. We're just two old fuddy-duddies. But so you're just sitting there talking the whole time, and it's very interesting. It's very weird. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who's young, and it's like, obviously unless you're with the guy and he goes to prison, after you've been married and stuff. But it's like, if you're 20 and you're just now meeting the guy and you're not married yet and totally committed, like, don't go there. It's like it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and and usually you're helping to support them because there's quarterly packages, and if they write letters, I mean, mine did write me letters every day, so that was not so you're paying for writing supplies. So if they don't have a paying job, you're putting money on their books so they can go to the canteen. And now they have these little tablet things, so sometimes I didn't have to, I paid so that I could text him. He paid for his own, like if he wanted to watch news shows or little movies or things like that. But for the longest time, all the phone calls were collect. And in the last year or two, they made it so the inmates could put money on, use their money and pay for phone calls and stuff. But he usually used his phone call time for his kids, so I didn't talk to him that much by phone. So it's a really weird way of life, and it's a really weird way of life. And there's a lot of people, but I mean, there's a lot of family togetherness in there. So I see families really trying to keep it together. And, there's parents coming to visit, there's girlfriends, there's, spouses and stuff, and they're bringing their kids. So it was really good to see that, everybody's trying to keep the family together. And I know COVID really wreaked havoc on a lot of families. And he likes to blame our breakup on COVID. I say thank you. It was a blessing because it helped me open up my eyes. I would probably still be doing that and still stressing out about the money because now I'm even closer to retirement and probably wouldn't have been closer to doing it if I was still paying for all his stuff. So
Right, yeah. And you did that for 20 years. That's a lot.
I did. I did.
It's expensive. Do you ever remember a time where you drove out there and maybe something was going on in the prison where he was maybe on punishment or something and you weren't allowed to see him?
There was one time where he got in trouble for something somebody set him up because he was not he wasn't in any gangs. He wasn't, trying to start trouble or anything like that. And like I said, he always had a job and he was well respected. But I know one time I went, but my office was like 2 minutes from the prison. So, he was in trouble. And so I couldn't see him right away. There were other times, sometimes you just go there and it was so foggy, they couldn't, they wouldn't let the guys come out to visit. And I know sometimes I'd driven like when he was like 3 hours away. It was like Valentine's Day weekend, and there was some emergency on the next group of buildings over, and so all the staff had to go there. So all of us had to leave visiting. So, it was usually not anything because he was in trouble. Sometimes he was out on a medical appointment and wasn't going to come back in time, so they made me leave. It's like, yeah, but usually he not in trouble. He just didn't get in trouble.
Right. Well, that's a good thing. I'm trying to remember where I don't know if I read it, but I was looking at a a situation where a lady, she went and she was upset. She drove. I think her husband was in Louisiana. She drove from Alabama maybe to go
Oh,
visit
wow.
him. But something happened where not him himself, but his floor tier or whatever was in trouble, and they all got on lockdown. So they canceled all calls, all visits, and everything. So she was upset, and I think she went to the warden. And I don't know if they ever let her. I don't remember if she said they let him see him or not. But I can imagine 20 years, you had to have some interesting, visits.
Yeah, and it's like I because even when I lived an hour away, something could have happened by the time I got to the in that hour that I drove. I'm going thinking I've got an appointment at a certain time, everything's fine, and maybe something does happen and they send us all away. So even in an hour something could happen. And I remember one of the times he was at a Southern California prison. It doesn't matter. It's like, and they used to have like play areas separated, like there was a little barrier around like a big mat so that the parents and their kids could play on this mat thingy.
Hmm.
And usually there were no problems in visiting because the guys kept their personality problems and gang problems out of the visiting room. But there was a husband and wife who got into it and started punching each other in the little children's, their kids weren't even sitting there. They were sitting there talking and they started punching on each other. So we didn't have to leave, but we all had to stay seated and they had to haul them out. But it's like, oh my gosh. And I've seen people get arrested, both the husband and the wife, because she's smuggled in some drugs. And, now they've seen it on the cameras and they've just pulled it out of your bag of popcorn, or they've seen it and now they have to go search the guy and, whatever. So you do see weird stuff. But we usually are so tuned into our conversation that we're trying to ignore everybody else and trying not to listen to anybody else. So, but yeah, I've seen parents. They're sitting there and their 2 or 3 kids they're all at the same table and they're not punching each other, but they're just having this argument. And it's like, okay, number one, I don't want to hear that. And number two, their kids are watching their parents like argue really vehemently. And it's like, that was sad. So,
Wow.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that marriage was your longest one, the 20 years?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. So
And then the
that's,
5 years to court, it's like I visited for 5 years before
oh,
we
yeah.
we said
Oh,
it's like, oh, we should get married. It's like, and here's the proposal. Oh yeah, we should probably get married. It's like, okay. It's, you're not going to get down on one knee because it's the prison visiting room. So ew. And it's like by that time, and I didn't care. I was in my 40s. He was a lifer. It's like, okay, I'm too. There's not going to be any babies because I'm too old by now. And it's like, and there weren't even any family visits at that point for lifers in California. They changed that. So it's like, I'm doomed to a life of just sitting here in the visiting room. But I was okay with that for the moment. But an inmate with a wife has more clout with the staff than just a girlfriend. So if he did need me to be his advocate as, okay, well, he hasn't gotten his mail for 3 weeks, what's going on? Or, this wrongdoing is happening. You have more clout as a wife than you do as just a girlfriend. So, yes, again, it's like, I wouldn't have needed to be married just cause by then it's like, I didn't care. But, I think it was just more a politically correct thing to actually get married.
right. And I actually thought that you had to be married, like to have certain certain visits and stuff. I thought they actually had to be married. So that's good.
The family
Yeah.
visits, you do have to be married. And it has
Okay.
to be like immediate family. But like parents can, it doesn't have to be just spouses. Like parents can go visit their person in prison and that's a family visit. They just have to be immediate family. So, if he had siblings, they could have gone in there, but
And
yeah, a girlfriend just can't go have a family visit.
gotcha. Even if
Yeah.
even if she had like a kid for him, did that count?
No, no.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Yeah. The couple has to be married. Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I
And I
imagine
know.
that like if the person had parents and then got her permission to take in the kid because that's a blood relative of the guy in prison, that probably would have been okay. But since if she wasn't married to him, you have, because I had to show my marriage certificate every time. Yeah.
And the part about the lifer. So I
Yeah.
didn't know that. So
Oh, yeah.
you were with him for 20 years. And at one of those parts, you said lifers couldn't even have visits?
Well, no, if you have life without parole, you can't have a family visit.
Oh,
They
family
took those.
visits.
Yeah, you could have visits, but they used to have family visits up until like 1996, and then they took them
Wow.
away from people with, even 25 to life. If you had a
What?
life in your set, yeah, no, because
What?
they didn't want you procreating because you're an
Oh.
inmate, so you're bad. Yeah,
Wow.
I know. So
So
yeah.
family visits must take part in another like place or something,
They
so you can like.
they have they either have like a row of like small apartments. They're like 2 bedrooms,
Oh, I get it. Okay.
or they have like a little prefab home, like away from the visiting room, but usually near. I know he said when he was at Old Folsom in California near Sacramento, they used part of the like an old hospital rooms for the family visit room. So they weren't bad. If people kept took decent care of the furniture and stuff and didn't rip up all the games. But yeah, they were fine. Had a fully equipped kitchen and 2 bedrooms and a living room and better TV than I have. So
Wow. Now
yeah.
see that I didn't know. I didn't even realize that because I think in Angola here in Louisiana there are little homes, but I didn't know. I didn't realize. Well, I think the homes are for the people that the sheriffs and stuff that live there, but I think there
That
may
could
be
be.
homes as well for the visits. But I didn't realize that's how family visits worked. Okay.
Yeah, and every state I'm sure is different. Now I
Mhm.
know he was at one prison and the family visits were like little cottages, or they were probably attached, but they each had their own little yard. So they were like little cottages, like at the beginning of this row of the inmates buildings. But they've all been different. The place we were at where we had family visits, they had apartments that are, if you're going to go visit in the big visiting room, you go through that door. If you're going to go family visit, you go through that door. you know so yeah.
Wow. So if you were to, let's say, meet another guy that was really nice and sweet, but he was in prison, would you do it again?
No, no, I
It's a
would
lot of
not.
work. It
it,
seems
it
like it's
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I need a person. Well, I'm doing fine on my own. If there were going to be another person in my life, I need him to be free to like do activities with me and cook with me, take walks with me, go to the movies with me, talk to me when I want to talk. It's like I don't. Yeah, there's too many restrictions, and I just want the full experience. I don't want to. I can only see you for a few hours on this day, and
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that has to be tough. So, what is the second book about? So, the first book was about the first five husbands and a little bit of seven, number
Yeah.
seven. What's the second book about?
The second book is all about the narcissistic abuse from number 7. It's how we met, how it is we got married, and then, what started going wrong and why I didn't see certain red flags sooner. And the whole drama, it's, combination of the house drama, because that really became a huge issue for us. And the whole like here's some of my needs that are not getting met. And so the relationship issues that everybody goes through, relationship issues. So it's a combination of that kind of stuff. And then there's okay, here's the last straw. Here's lots of quotes from his letters where he was just clearly really mean. And I just finished writing the chapter on, here's what the divorce process was like. And the last chapter will be on, here's my life now. And here's how I've moved on. And, I'm doing okay. And it's okay. And it's going to be called The Prince Was Wrong, because his nickname is the Prince. And narcissists think they are always right. I would try to tell him, it's like, you're not always right. Oh, well, everybody else seems to think I'm always right. And, nobody else questions my answers. It's like, well, I'm questioning them,
Right. Wow.
I'm opening my mouth,
Oh,
I should subtitle it "The Mouse is Out of the House."
right.
My full Leo fierce crone self is just out there now.
So, do you think after going through everything that you went through, do you think you will ever find the courage to love again?
I do, because I am really happy with myself. So somewhere along the line, there will be somebody who sees me for the wonderful person I am, and I will see him that way. And we will see each other as equals. And that's a big thing for me now,
Yeah.
because number 7 clearly does not see women in general, and he clearly didn't see me as an equal, and I can't stand that, and I have to have that. And you need to be okay that I'm writing a book, and you need to be okay that I practice magic, and that I like to talk to fairies, and I like to talk to ghosts, and you need to be okay with the way my life is, because I'm not changing it. And hopefully
Right.
you'll be interested in some of those same things, but I think love can still be out there. Yes.
Right. That's
I'm
a
just
that's
I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a
right.
hurry. That was
So,
often a problem as well. It's like I got to jump right into the next one. I got to find that best dad, for her. And it's like, yeah, she didn't need that. She didn't want that.
so looking back in retrospect, was there really like true love in any of your situations?
You're gonna make me cry
Oh
at the
no.
moment. No, it's okay. Um, I always thought there was. I always thought there was, and I'm learning. Here's another thing. My sage advice is, even somebody my age can learn new things, and learn to look at things certain ways. But because now it's like I have a bucket list of what I want that partner to be like, you know, based on, here's the kind of life I'm creating for myself. But yes, I thought I was in love, but it was mostly probably the hormones raging. And well, we can't have sex unless we're married, and we like each other, and we go to church together. So we might as well get married.
Right. But
So,
it's like when you think about it, I can hear myself in some of your stories, and the sad part is like a lot of like people looking outside looking in, they may judge whatever situation however they want to judge it, but a lot of times
right.
all we want is just love.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
if he could have just acknowledged that I was an amazing person, or that I am, or if he could have just acknowledged that I was okay the way I am, that
Right.
that would have helped. He could just never see that if
Right.
I wasn't, because he would start to say something nice, and then he would end it with gaslighting. It's like, no, you don't get to qualify the nice thing you just said. So,
Right.
yeah.
But you know what was important, and the only person that needed to see whatever that you were looking for was really just you.
Right.
So a lot of times, a
Exactly.
lot of times when we're looking for love, we look, like I told you, this was actually what I learned in one of my podcasts that I had just a
Okay.
couple ago, and then we were talking about relationships, and we were talking about, that's why I said I can hear myself in some of your stories, and a lot of times we look for validation from other people, and I guess it hurts us
Right.
so much because we never get it, and then you're just
Right.
trying and trying and trying to find it. It just it doesn't come, and when it does come we package it up as something else. So I
Exactly.
understand,
Well,
I completely understand
thank
it.
you. Yeah. The message I always got, no matter who, it's like that I was not enough. And I actually, one of my husbands, he was like a delivery person, like for a milk or an ice cream company, whatever. And I've always been a bookkeeper. So that's a desk job. You're using I'm thinking all day long. I'm crunching numbers. Like, well, you don't have a real job, because you're just doing that. It's like, because I'm not physically active at my job. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, whatever. But yeah, it's like, and I think the thing is, I'm agreeing with you. So you have to really be happy with who you are, because then you're way more likely to attract the person that you want, or the person that's going to be the best complement for you.
You
So,
got it. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got it.
I'm not, gonna be, and it's like even I tried for a minute a few dating apps recently and then turned them off after a minute. And it's like, I'm just going to put it out there. It's like, no, I never said I was married 7 times because that's not the first initial dating app chat.
Right.
It's like on one of them, I finally said, I'm a witch. Just, it's like, because I would say I'm an other in religion and I'd get all these Catholics. And it's like, yeah, no, we're not going to
Right.
match.
Right. It's not gonna work.
No, it's like, I'm just going to tell people in a very friendly, positive way, this is who I am. If you don't like it, move on. It's like,
Right. Either
so.
you love me or you love me not.
Exactly. And, I can take care of myself. I've proven that. So, you know, I can support myself. The cats and I are happy, but I'm starting to make more friends where I'm at. And so that's a good thing.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You are a great person. You can
Thank
tell
you.
when someone has a good personality and a good spirit, and the right person will definitely come along. I don't know, like, I know you say you're a witch, so I don't know, what to say. Like, I don't know
It's
like
okay.
when you're doing religion, you say God's gonna send somebody. I don't know what to say. When you're like, what's that?
Just
Like a
I
Wiccan? I
have
don't
my
know.
higher power or the divine universe,
Right. Okay. So
somebody will show up. Yes,
yes, the universe will definitely send
exactly.
someone to you. So
They,
I mean, I like paranormal stuff too. So I watch Discovery Channel all day, watching ghost stories, and
oh, wow.
I love it. So that's one of my other passions. So
Cool.
can you tell everyone how they can follow you and how they can purchase your books?
Sure. The book is either on Amazon or all the other, platforms. I also have a website called dragonhillbooks.net. If they want a hard, me to sign a copy, then I would mail it out. My email, so there's an email for Dragon Hill Books. I also have Joann, no E, at midlifemagic.biz. I have an Instagram and an Facebook author page under Joann Fawcett author. So, and we're going to be doing a Joann Fawcett website pretty soon for the new book. So it's all good. So yeah,
Okay.
I love to stay in contact with people.
Okay, awesome. So those books definitely, I know they're going to be interesting because of, the stories that you have. Like I told you, I actually approached you because I think you
Yes, you
post on
did. Thank
something,
you.
and you're welcome. I saw a post and I was just reading. I clicked on your profile and I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I said, let me just see if she will respond. So I do thank you for
Oh, yeah. It's like,
responding,
oh,
and I
look.
thank you for
Oh,
coming
thank
on
you.
because this
Oh,
is good. A lot of times people see differences, physical differences, but they don't realize that most of us, we're all the same. We all want the same
exactly.
things: love, respect, loyalty, just the basic things. And we're
Exactly.
more alike than we are different. So I love to hear different perspectives. I love to hear different situations. And your story is awesome. So I'm glad you did
Well,
write a book.
thank you. I am so glad you reached out to me because it's like I'm used to pitching myself and it's like, oh, look at somebody wants me. They're reaching out to me. This is cool. So thank you
Right.
so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing. It's not easy hosting a podcast.
Yes. Thank you. And of course, a helicopter wants to pass. um,
At least my cats are quiet.
all right. Really? Okay, but again, thank you, Joann,
You're
and thank you
welcome.
to the guests that have listened. Joanne's story, like I said, was awesome from the beginning to the end. It was interesting, and actually, I had to go off key for my questions because everything you said was just like so intriguing that I kept going on more for that, and I never got to my actual questions.
Uh-oh. Well, if you ever want to have me back on, we'll get the rest of your questions taken care of.
All right, good. We can do that. But I mean, the questions I asked, it worked out because I mean, I'm learning
Okay.
and listening for myself. But I know I have a lot of people that deal with men in jail and stuff. So I know they
Yeah.
probably wanted to know that more than anything. So again,
Yeah, it's
y'all.
interesting. And I think it's a comprehensive chapter about what it's like. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoyed today's show, and I hope you all come back. If you have dealt with have a prison husband or a prison boo or whatever, prison wife, let us know how your experience has been. We heard how Joann's will be was. So again, thank you. So like I always end my show, if the Lord says the same, I'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much.